Freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
And you can always depend on propaganda. Life is so hard, so confusing. Everyone's just trying to make ends meet. You can brighten up their day, keep the facts out of their way. Just simplify the complex, repeat, repeat, repeat. Propaganda. If you need to change the subject, it's a dandy.
All right, what we're doing here is that if you're watching the video, you're live streaming. We have the Wendy's commercial where I never knew this one existed. You know, Bill's telling me, you gotta see this, man. And what it is it has these guys that are they're going to the field, this open field, and just plummeting themselves into this abyss, this big hole out in the field. And you know, and how do you get that? How does that happen? Propaganda. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I get it, you know. But, you know, it's been going on for a long time. And I've been influenced by a lot of people that were, they were not as susceptible to this kind of stuff. So I'm going, okay, why were they not susceptible? And why are so many? And I got to ask Bill, because I always see his name, William, spelled out on the internet. But, Bill, why is it that you have so many people that are so willing to give up of themselves over to this entity, this social contract that I never even saw, much less signed? And what's the cure? So, I mean, if you're looking at this, you woke up, you know, your son goes, hey, Dad, man, come on, you're killing me here.
Wake up.
Know? So what was his motivation to even say that, and how did he come to the realization?
Let me answer the first question first, if I may, and I think that fear, Stefan Molyneux has done a brilliant video. It's like 13 minutes long, called The History of Your Enslavement, in which he talks about why fear is the primary way that the government has started the entire thing. Now, how does it maintain this fiction that we need someone else with a gun, as Mark Stevens would say, to deliver our goods and services? Well, that would be the job of the government education complex and the government media complex and television and radio stations and internet and all of it. The complex of those various factors, I think, is what leads us to think this. But up until the 18th century, William Wilberforce stood up in the Parliament and said, you know what? Slavery is wrong, and the ownership of chattel slaves and the ownership of other human beings in chattel slavery, bondage slavery, is wrong. He was laughed out of the Parliament for the first few years. By the start of the 19th century, the English had made the slave trade illegal and started to make slavery an immoral imperative. We had abolitionists here in America who said, you know, owning other people is wrong. Well, we did get rid of chattel slavery, but now what we're left with is tax slavery, regulatory slavery, and government slavery. I used to be a minarchist myself. Hi, my name is Bill. I used to be a minarchist. But what minarchism comes down to is that it's a belief in limited government. It's a belief in unicorns. It's a belief in the paranormal. It's a belief in things that have not ever, nor will, nor now exist. There is no such thing. My standard offer to everybody is that I'll buy you dinner at Ruth's Chris if you like, if you'll show me one historical precedent of a government limited itself in the fashion that from its embryonic stage up through all stages of its growth, it actually limited itself. It hasn't happened. Gregg and I had a brief conversation concerning the Constitution, and Gregg points out, as I'm aware of, that in the first 10 years after ratification in 1791, we had taxes levied on land, on slaves, on documents, on all those things that we revolted over and divorced from the United Kingdom from in the first place, in the first 10 years. And then after that, it's simply ramped up exponentially.
Yeah, it's just a matter of degree once you concede the principle.
Well, it's amperage on the vacuum cleaner connected to your wallet and your soul. That's what it all comes down to.
Amperage on your soul. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You know, one thing, we were talking off air earlier in the first hour, and Gregg says, okay, if you'll make this one bumper sticker, I'll put it on my car. Tell us what it is.
It will say, vote for Ron Paul, the least evil.
You know, but then you're still advocating voting, you minarchist. That's a sign he wants to share. Minarchist. The you know, one thing, other person that, you know, really I didn't realize, because I got to know him, Butler Schaefer was
brilliant.
Mark Victor's mentor, is one of his law professors when he went to law school. And from our first Freedom Summit, he's been speaking for a long time, but keep in mind, our first Freedom Summit was 3 weeks after 9/11, and we knew it was coming. You know, we're just, you know, Bumper Hornberger spoke, Bob Levy, Gato spoke, Don Brudeau. You know, this is our first year, you know. So we're going, Clint Bullock from Institute for Justice at the time, you know, we're just going, yeah, you know, give us what for, because we know here it comes. And Vince Serpenowitz was kind of on, you know, had a lot to say about it too. And what was interesting was this whole concept of government in general. Watch it expand exponentially. What, here it comes. Has nothing to do, blah, 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 blah. They got all kinds of stuff on the shelves they're going to dust off. And it's, how do you think the Patriot Act got accumulated and written and passed in the thousands of pages, and boom, done? Well, you think they just made that up? Man, it was on a shelf. They were trying to get that stuff through the Clinton administration. Well, now it's under the Republicans. Well, I'm going, this is not, we knew where this was going to go. We're almost there. And I'm wondering what are going to be the telltale signs of us seeing the actual finishing disintegration. Is it going to be the repudiation of the dollar? Is it going to be the revolt of the people here? Is it going to be the left coming up with austerity, austerity, we need more goodies? Is it going to be the tax the rich thing? Is it going to be manufacturing just leaving? Which is the first thing in that cascade that you think is going to, you know, be this signal?
The easy answer to that is that it's going to be a black swan event. Nassim Taleb has told us that the black swan, for which he wrote a book, is an event that when we look back, it all sort of makes sense, but at the time, it was completely unexpected. I think that it's going to be, and this is the cheater way to get out of what you're asking me to describe as which of those cascades, it's going to be a combination of a few or all of those, because that's the way history works. History is all about cause and effect, and it's very easy for us to look back, but it's very difficult for us to know what's going to happen with what Clausewitz would refer to as friction, the fog of war, the fog of action and events, in which what would have happened if Robert E. Lee's map that he wrapped his cigars in that was discovered by the Union days before Gettysburg occurred, what if they had paid attention to that? They didn't. There's a number of historical incidents just like that where we think, well, why didn't they take advantage of it? I think that in combination with general government incompetence and the ratcheting up of one of my personal peccadillos right now, the cop nation that we live in, is going to make things get worse, worse, and worse, because we live in a country now. Think about this, Ernie. If it weren't for cops and tax collectors, would we be where we are? If there weren't law enforcers, would we be where we are?
Okay, now that's what we're going to talk about when we come back. That's what this whole thing is building up to. Who's the tip of the spear for the new empire, world order of the whatever? You know, where does that come from? These guys, the men in black with the shields and the batons and the tasers and the microwaves and the sound weapons and the acoustical, we're going to rule you people. And how do you resist? Should you? We'll be right back.